Safety in the classroom is top of mind for many educators after yesterday's tragedy. So with us now is Kenneth Trump. He's the president of National School Safety and Security Services, a Cleveland-based consulting firm specializing in school security and emergency preparedness training. Thank you so much for joining us. You have been talking about this for at least a decade, but probably more. I'm going to tell you one of the things that really stuck out to me when I started hearing about the details of this case in Texas is, how did he get into the school? I can't get into my kid's school right now because all the doors are locked. I have to be buzzed in. So that was my first question. And I thought to myself, there's probably a lot of things that can be done school security-wise that aren't about major financial investments. It's just sort of common sense.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. You're right. There are many practical, cost-effective things that can be done. To your first point, I'm wondering, and we'll see as the facts unfold, if perhaps that class was not outside at recess at that time and then retreated to the building. One possibility, or someone was coming and going. Or we do have situations where doors are propped open or left unlocked or not properly secured. So that is one question that'll remain to be seen. But I have been, you're right, actually 3 decades working in this field, back to the days of Columbine through Sandy Hook and Parkland school shootings and many other things in between. And what I've learned, having worked as a forensic analysis expert witness on a number of those shootings, is that while the facts and merits of every case vary, the common thread we're finding is that when there are allegations of a crack, a hole that slipped through in some form or another, it is focused on human factors, not hardware and equipment. There's a quick fix to throw up metal detectors and cameras and security theater, the appearance, which when you get into implementing that is much more difficult than you think if you'd have to run it 24 hours. Schools are community centers. They're used after hours, performing arts, athletics, many other things. So you really have to think through how would that work. But we know that the first and best line of defense on threats from within the school community come from a well-trained, highly alert staff, kids who come forward, parents, grandparents who report concerns. The outside threat, the new challenge, someone not connected to the school, the unknown unknowns, that's a whole new growing avenue and makes it a lot harder to prepare.
Okay, I want to talk to you about whether or not you've seen enough investment in the human element that you are bringing up. But before we get to that, you know what works and what doesn't work. And you're right. Every time a school shooting happens, the conversation comes up about what schools need to do. I want to throw some of these options out at you, what we keep hearing. You tell us if it works. Local police working at the school, a school resource officer on the grounds. Does it make a difference? It didn't make much of a difference in Parkland.
I strongly support school resource officer programs, school-based police departments with fully trained, commissioned, certified resource officers who are specially trained to work in schools. They are prevention programs. Those officers typically prevent more things than they ever respond to. If you have that officer on campus, it helps, and they do a lot more. They're invested in that school community, and we don't hear of the thousands of things that these officers do that prevent tragedies like we saw yesterday. So I fully support those.
Great point. Texas's Attorney General is calling for teachers to be armed. Do you think that makes a difference?
That's a no on my list. We want fully trained, certified police officers. There's much more to handling a scenario, a crisis, a critical intervention, a potentially armed person who's needs to be talked down, that comes along, that goes beyond being trained to handle, shoot, and holster a firearm itself. It's a mindset. It's something that our officers who are with decades of experience out in the street and the community still struggle with, as far as shootings and crisis intervention. I want teachers to focus on teaching and know that they are well protected through another tool if it's an armed presence, and that is a police officer.
Active shooter drills. I got to tell you, it was so unnerving when my daughter came home and told me that she was doing these.
They are, and we've come full circle on these. We have to have age and developmentally appropriate drills, focusing on the fundamentals, basic lockdowns, police controlled evacuations, sheltering in place. Those type of drills, age and developmentally presented, are appropriate. What we're concerned about now are the increasingly over-the-top drills, the options-based training where they want to train kids to throw things, attack gunmen, have teachers do ridiculous things that you can't really effectively do. Focus on the fundamentals. There are 3 or 4 basic drills, age and developmentally appropriate. Yes, we have to have them. They need to be done properly, and we need to be very cautious that we're not inducing more trauma by the drills than the actual threat itself.
So let's get back to what you said was a common denominator in many of these cases, right? The human element. And supporting the kids who are having trouble, who are alienated, who may be having sort of undiagnosed mental health issues. Is there enough investment in that? And when there is investment in that, is there enough follow through? Because I think about the shooting in Oxford, Michigan. Teachers identified a problem with this kid. They brought his parents in. It didn't result in anything.
Well, we've heard that phrase, see something, say something. I add on, and do something. And to do something, you have to know what to do. We need to get a culture of reporting where people see something and say something, but we need to do a better job at training on what to do. And I've been through this through 3 generations of students and in schools. And we have a whole new generation of teachers, support staff members who aren't even in school themselves around Columbine, where we learned a lot of these fundamentals. Important point. Many people have mental health issues who will never be violent. But we know that of those school shooters and other mass shooters, they tend to have mental health issues untreated, undiagnosed, or some gaps in between. So we don't want to stigmatize everybody with mental health because most people aren't violent, but that is an issue. We have seen a significant investment, ironically, after COVID, with counselors and social emotional supports for kids in school because of the pandemic impacts. So we're seeing that. The problem is, what do we have out in the community? I know communities where they don't have enough counselors, psychologists, and outside resources to meet the demand for adolescent and child needs here. Other point on the human factor is training. I can tell you that increasingly over the years, the focus on training in schools for teachers, support staff members has been on academics and test scores. We're getting less and less time in professional development, even at their national conferences, to talk about security, emergency planning, prevention issues, recognizing red flags, appropriate drills. And one thing that I'm really shifting our training to focus on is situational awareness, being present, making sure as that we're pulling out and being present and mindful of our surroundings and what's out of place, rather than being locked and pulling back in and sucked into our digital world and our smartphones, where we're not even aware of what's happening around our immediate presence.
Oh man, Kenneth, you read my mind, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking fewer when it comes to situational awareness. We're all guilty of not having enough of it. We are, and we've, as a society and our younger kids, but it's also as adults, we're just so glued to get that next text, that next message. We're very busy. And remember, adults come to work in schools with a lot of health issues and baggage and family issues and their own concerns, and they work very hard. Our educators do an amazing job. Many of our viewers will never hear about the things that are prevented and the lives that are saved and the intervention by kids and support staff and school police. But it only takes one to slip through the cracks that has us go back again and again and revisit it. That's a really great point. Kenneth Trump, great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.